the podcast for heroes in the world of Overwatch. This is The Payload.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 14 of The Payload. I'm John Horstman, and with me, of course, is the crew. First, from Ventura, California, welcome back, Jimmy Bloxam. Hey, Jimmy.
Hey, so good to be back. All sorts of crazy news today coming out for Overwatch, and we picked the perfect time to switch just today for Monday nights.
Right, I don't normally like to postpone or cancel shows, but if we're going to postpone, I'm glad we postponed it today because a whole bunch of news came out today. Other news, though, Kevin Hovdestad, Saskatoon, Canada, is here. Hey, Kevin, how you doing, man?
I'm good, John. Yeah, a part of me worried that when we postponed the show and then all of this news broke, people would be like, and there'd be some pretty serious chin scratching. Like, did they know? Did they know? We didn't know. We had no idea. We woke up this morning, looked at what was going on online and went, oh. And no, we didn't. Don't do that.
No, we had no idea.
So this worked out beautifully. I think we get a great opportunity to talk all about all the awesome stuff that literally just happened today and get a real good grasp on everything that's going on. Also, for anybody who tunes in and listens to this show, you get kind of a double header because you'll just barely have listened to this show and we'll be recording the next one.
Yes, it will not be long. We're going to see you in like 4 days. It's going to be really weird, but it'll be good. Before we jump into the new Overwatch news, let's talk a little bit about our weeks in Overwatch. Jimmy, how'd you do, man?
It was really good. I played a lot with you earlier in the week last week, and we had a lot of fun.
One night for about 2 hours, but
yeah,
you know.
It was fun, though. I really tried to kind of flex my repertoire of heroes and really played heroes that I haven't really been playing much. I tried to do Zenyatta, especially since it looks like we both picked up that Zenyatta skin.
I hate you so much. Why do you have to get the same exact skin as me?
Duh. We can be matching.
Yeah, we're gonna run double Zenyatta.
Yeah, new meta.
Okay. That's not going to happen, by the way. Don't run double Zenyatta, guys. Just, you can't put double Orbit Discord on an enemy, can you? I'm pretty sure you can't.
I imagine not, but it's not something I've went out and tried.
After the show, do you want to run double Zenyatta?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Kevin, how was your week in Overwatch?
It was good. I actually finally had a chance to play the blessed game. I felt so bad when, we came back and did the last show, and I hadn't even had a chance to log in since the beta came back online because I was so swamped away doing the Hearthstone Championship Tour stuff and then got home and just buried under work. So got in, played the game a bit, messed around on some maps with my roommate, got to play with the progression system, see how everything looked. And it's awesome. Honestly, I think the biggest thing for me right now is I'm super amped to get it on console. And knowing now that pre-orders will unlock an open beta on the console side, spoiler alert, there's definitely a part of me that wants to just get on the ground floor with that. Because I know I'll play it on PC, but I don't see that being how I get the most enjoyment out of it. For sure, for me, this feels like the kind of game that I want to play on the couch with my buddies, and I'm super stoked for that. So you guys are probably way ahead of me on the progression system because I'm the worst about trying to do that kind of stuff when I know it's going away, when I know it's going to get wiped eventually. Like I just can't put my heart into it. But I played a lot of games, had a lot of fun, and I'm just super excited to see the game come out really soon. ...
Yeah, I didn't get to play as much as I wanted to with my internet being virtually crippled for the past 5 days, which try doing everything that I try to do in a week with really crappy internet upload. It's just awful. But I did get to level 20, so there's that. and I got my legendary Zenyatta skin. And I also, I don't know if it was after or before the last show, but I got the Mach T Tracer skin as well. I can't remember if I talked about that last time, but I have that one too. So I have 2 legendary skins so far, and I've been having a lot of fun playing. It's not a game that I can play with like 0 upload, so I haven't got to play for like 5 days. So I've just been diving into Hearthstone because it's not a very network heavy game. And yeah, that was about it. Shall we talk some news?
Let's do the good stuff.
This week in Overwatch.
We got a big announcement today, and I can't think of a better person to bring us through it than our very own Kevin Hovdestad. Kevin, what happened this morning? Actually, technically yesterday, right? IGN.
Well, okay. So there's a bright spot at the end of this story. The sad thing was we don't know exactly what the original timetable on this announcement was meant to be, but ads started showing up, like full-size website takeover ads on IGN last night announcing the Overwatch release date of May 24th. So we now know that Overwatch will be out all 3 platforms on May 24th this spring. The confirmation from Blizzard came out later today. It was out by about lunchtime so that we knew officially that was what was happening. But yeah, super excited to see exactly what's coming through. I imagine now that Blizzard is going to be a little dicey on exactly who knows this kind of stuff in advance, because this is a couple times with Overwatch in particular, because it's being released on console, that some of their big announcements have gotten slightly... not spoiled per se, but like pushed out a little ahead of schedule. I'll never forget, Kaplan last year at BlizzCon being like, does anyone in the room not have internet? That guy. All right, I'm going to talk to him. The rest of you can ignore me because you saw this already this morning. Like, well, this keeps happening to them.
I think it's been just all marketing, because the Overwatch stuff for BlizzCon was GameStop posters or something like that. So they had probably sent that out beforehand, so that they could have that day of the BlizzCon announcement. And this was, like you said, the takeover kind of ad on IGN. So it's been just marketing stuff that's kind of been a little bit out of their control, or stuff they sent early to preempt these announcements. But I think this announcement was pretty much set to go today, because the blog post came out pretty quickly. And also there was a PlayStation blog as well. So... yeah. I imagine it was very soon, if not today, very, very soon. Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense. But May 24th is what it's going to be. I have this written down. We called this, I believe it's episode 6. I didn't put the specific episode, but 6 or 7. Both of you thought it was going to launch in June. I said end of May. So pay up. You each owe me a beer. Good job.
Duly noted, sir.
I've got you next BlizzCon.
That's all that I wanted to add to the news segment, is that I was right and you guys were wrong. It's just...
I mean, the thing about the way that it was structured, right, was because of how they took pre-orders in, they had to launch it by whatever date they had originally said, like the 21st of June or something, was the absolute hard deadline. And I think we just assumed that was when they would put it out, because there's not a huge benefit to releasing it earlier. In this case, with the way that modern consoles work and the fact that it's all going to be downloaded, they don't have to really worry about like release candidate timing or how things play out in terms of like the gold master discs that are going to be ready for distribution to deal with physical copies. Like, if it's ready earlier, or if they want it to go live earlier, there's nothing stopping them. I think, in all honesty, we've been playing a version of this game that's playable and launchable pretty much since the beta first came out last fall. The engine's been super smooth. All the characters and maps were clearly already done. It's just been a question of like balance changes that could frankly have occurred in a live environment if they had to. Lord knows that most games go through that, and Overwatch probably will. I don't think they're done. I think we'll see more changes after the game launches.
I'd be shocked if they didn't make changes, to be honest. I mean, Blizzard has a very good, clear track record of supporting the games long after launch. So, And this being a brand new IP, they're in this for the long haul with Overwatch.
Yeah, I need that ranking system. I really do, and I hope it does not launch without a ranking system. I really am nervous.
Yeah, I hope you guys, the Overwatch community, doesn't have to go through what the Heroes of the Storm community is going through right now.
Right.
Because people are antsy, to say the least.
The more that Jeff keeps kind of talking about it, though, the more I'm convinced that this game is going to launch without a ranking system.
Probably.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's not the end of the world, although it does seem kind of unfortunate because I'll be the first person to admit that, like, with the lack of visibility and feedback when you play the game as to how you're doing, whether you're getting better or worse, how you rank up, the fact that you just kind of get dropped into lobbies seemingly haphazardly, there's definitely some, like, once you've played for a couple of hours, you're like, okay, but now what? And it's fun. I love the game, but it just doesn't have that sort of, like, every game has those really cathartic things that make you feel like, yeah, I feel like I got value out of my time that I just spent. And we just talked on Well Met about how Hearthstone and Overwatch have really nailed that experience of unlocking a reward in a game and how exciting it feels when you get your new stuff. So I feel like that side is totally locked down. It's definitely the, where am I at? How do I stack up side? Especially if they want to, I don't know, say, for example, maybe throw a Overwatch World Championship in 2016. They're definitely going to have something put together to make that happen.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I want to hear from Kevin Hovdestad. Speculate about all the good things. But
I'm trying, man.
So the thing is, though, and I've realized this more and more, it's not that I am so convinced we need a ranking system for when I'm playing with friends. Honestly, I don't really care. It's when I'm playing by myself. I don't like to play this game by myself because there's no ranking system. So when I'm playing with Jimmy or any of my other friends, like, it's like, cool, whatever. We're just hanging out and that's fun. It's like Rocket League for me. You don't play it with groups. Well, some people do. I don't. It's just to hang out with friends and have fun and just relax. But when I'm playing by myself, I'm like, if I don't feel like I'm progressing or getting better at the game, I don't know that I really want to play this right now. So I really hope we get this. I hope we get it soon. And I hope that we don't have to get this game out to Xbox and PS4 before there's a ranking system involved. But let's go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just think that there's definitely going to be a lot of people who will touch the game for the first time after release, right? They won't have been following it. They won't have looked anything up. They won't have played the beta. And if it comes out with no ranking system, they're just going to assume it doesn't exist, right? Like, Blizzard has a history, obviously, of working on their games and adding content, but someone who doesn't know and hasn't been following the development of the game isn't going to know that that's not going to be a DLC feature or part of Overwatch 2 or whatever. Like, there's definitely going to have to be... They need as complete a product as they can manage at launch, and then to tweak after it's launched, not be waiting to add major wholesale components of the game, in my opinion.
Do you think we'll see anything new at Open Beta?
I think we might see another map or two.
I guess we should talk about Open Beta, because that's... I think that's where that conversation starts.
Yeah.
So, Jimmy, tell us about Open Beta.
I forget the exact dates. Was it May
26th and 29th? No. April, that's when the pre-orders have to end.
Okay.
May 3rd.
May 3rd and 4th are
access.
the pre-order early access for the beta. That's all systems, so PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and then open beta from the 5th to the 9th, I believe. And this is a true open beta, so like anyone can go in and play and check it out. And then they'll be compelled to pre-order it because it's such a great game. And I'm sure Blizzard servers will melt on May 5th due to the sheer amount of people trying to play it, because I think last quarter they announced something like 8 million signups for the Overwatch beta. I think it was a pretty incredible number for a game that is not out.
Yeah. It was huge. Yeah, 8 million. And I believe pre-orders have to be done by, is it April 29th? Right?
I believe
in order to
so.
get early access. If you don't do it before then.
Yeah, there's a cutoff at the end of April, yeah.
And basically how it works is when you pre-order, depending on who you pre-ordered to, they provide you with a code unless you provide from somebody who doesn't do that. And the cool thing about this, too, is that you get a key for yourself and a friend. So why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and I actually already got my keys for PlayStation from Amazon, so they are sending those out. They just can't be activated until the beta starts. That beta, not the one that's currently going on. The other beta.
So this does imply something, though, because the actual game itself comes out May 24th. Open beta ends May 9th. Do you guys think that there's going to be anything going on between those 2 weeks, or are we just going to be? Is it going to be like when they shut down the beta for that month and a half? There's just nothing. Go dark. Continue to contemplate life again.
Yeah, I think they're just going to bring it down. I mean, at some point, like even if there's going to be a day zero patch or whatever else, like it does just kind of make sense. They're going to do a hard reset of everybody's accounts and data because they want everybody to start from the same place. It does kind of make sense that rather than have the complexity of like, when does it shut down? Do we shut it down 24 hours before? Do we shut it down 2 days before? Like, there's going to be server maintenance, getting everything prepped, getting all the accounts wiped. It had to be a non-zero amount of time, so it being 2 weeks isn't a whole lot worse than it being, 5 days, 10 days. Like it's the exact amount of time I don't think is material. The fact is it had to come down for a period of time. We just had that period in all of the other Blizzard franchises during the beta process because things carried forward out of the Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm betas into the live environment. And that's not the case with Overwatch.
Yeah. Something, too, with the open beta, we're kind of getting more details and things like that about what the game is going to look like. We have finally confirmation that there will be no cross-platform play between Xbox One, PS4, and PC. Are either of you guys surprised by this?
No.
Not in the slightest. No.
Yeah, me either. Okay.
I mean, Rocket League does it, but that's different in a way. I don't know. It would be very hard to get everyone playing nice with each other. So, not surprised. It's probably just a bit too much work for Blizzard to do that. Right. And
it's not even, I don't think it's even a work problem. I think it's fundamental to the gameplay experience. I think putting those people in the same place would be awful, like truly miserable.
Yeah.
And it just, the expectation exists, right? That like everybody knows that if I buy a game on PlayStation, I'm playing with my friends who are on PlayStation Network. That's just how it works. I don't think, we're not at a point yet where that's not going to be the case. And in shooters in general, unless a game doesn't have a PC version, I don't think there's ever a world in which you want all your players in the same pool because the PC players win by default.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's just what's going to happen.
I remember Microsoft did this once where it was a shooter and it was on PC and Xbox, and PC just like obliterated the Xbox players. So, I mean, that's obviously a big part of it. You want the gameplay to feel fair and not feel like, oh, PC players just have this huge advantage because they're using keyboard and mouse, which is true. But
so I totally agree. PC should be its own thing, but I don't know if there's that big of a difference between Xbox One and PS4 players. Like, there's definitely the ability to be able to play cross-platform there. I think Rocket League does allow for that. I believe you can play Rocket League all at once. You can't group up, so I can't invite somebody into my party who's playing on PS4 if I'm on Xbox One. But
yeah. But for Overwatch, that's an experience thing, right? Like, you wouldn't be able to voice chat across the networks, and voice chat's so integral to the game experience. Like, when you play, you use voice chat all the time, right?
Absolutely.
You guys both do.
Yeah.
I talk trash in Discord, actually. But yeah, you're right. Okay. Fundamentally, in a perfect world where I was contributing.
if you were contributing. Yeah. No, it like the game experience would suffer for it. I think the way that things are built, this game has such a like well-designed closed experience that to try and like make that sort of malleable and lose some of those synergies to have the cross-platform option, like the game experience would suffer, and that to have a slightly larger player base, like if you're Blizzard in this situation, I think you look very seriously at what's going on and say, you know what, like there's going to be a lot of people playing this game. It's going to sell copies. So they're not worried about like, oh God, what if there's no one playing on PlayStation? Like, I don't think that's a serious risk right now.
I do believe that if it ever came to it and on console that queue times started to really, stink, I do believe that there could be a potential for Blizzard to actually create that bridge and let you play cross-platform. But I think you're right, Kev. There's too many people interested in the game. There's too many people that want to play that there's not really a huge advantage to it because it doesn't link you with more players with how these things exist. So really all it does is just give you a larger player pool, and larger player pools are largely only beneficial when you are faced with long queue times and the matchmaking system isn't been able to, get you matches in good enough times. So you're right.
Yeah, and that's probably not an immediate risk.
I would hope not. I hope not. Like 3 weeks into live, we get a developer update from Jeff Kaplan be like, so we need more long or shorter queues, so we're just going to combine that. There's no way he's going to be doing that. So,
yes.
All right.
Overwatch for PlayStation on sale for $12 because we need people to play it. Like, no.
Fire sale.
Oh,
Fire
geez.
sale. So, question. I had a dream last night. 2, maybe 3 nights ago. Neither of you are in it. Don't worry. They announced a console version or an Overwatch console for Xbox One. If they did that, would you guys buy one?
Like a branded, like a skin console?
Yeah, like an Overwatch console. It had a Tracer-themed controller where the Xbox glowed the little Tracer center thing. So I really want. I've been wanting one ever since. I've been wanting one ever since, and I would drop the extra $300-$400 just to get one.
Blizzard's marketing department is frantically writing this down as we speak, going like, "Oh my
You're
God,
welcome.
we have to do this."
You're welcome.
Well, I don't have an Xbox One, so it would be the perfect console for me to grab it with.
I almost bought the white Xbox, and then I almost bought the Halo 5 one, and then I would have an Overwatch one. If I kept impulse buying those, I would have 4 Xboxes. Probably not a great idea.
Yeah, this is the question I have. Do we even know if the console version is going to have split screen multiplayer at all? So you can
no way.
have buddies?
I thought they said no. I thought they said no. I mean, I'd love it, but I don't think it works just because it's not a good fit. You've already had such a limited field of view, and you have to play in teams of 6 online. Like, it's not like you can just sit and trash. I don't know. What are you going to do? Sit and trash bots with your friend on the couch? Like, I don't see there being a lot of value in that.
Well, John and I connect up in a party and play. So, I mean, it would be pretty similar to that. I feel like I'm just an idea out there. I wasn't sure if that had been addressed by Blizzard yet.
Split screen is so 2011. I don't even know how to respond to that. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, one could hope if it was something that, like, there's genres where it worked. I loved the fact that you could do local split screen co-op in like Left 4 Dead, and that's not that long ago. But I just don't think it makes sense for what Overwatch is as a game.
I totally agree. What else do we need to hit here besides that we have an official date?
I mean, those are the big things. It's cool that they're doing an open beta. I mean, I'm sad that it's so short, I guess. It's maybe the biggest thing. Yeah. Considering it's tied to pre-orders. Like, you probably could have done that and opened that up a little earlier, but...
Well, and it's only tied up... The pre-order is only tied up for basically 2 days, right? If you pre-ordered the game, you're only getting 2 days early.
2 extra days prior to the actual open beta, yeah.
But the other ones, you don't have to actually own the game to play the open beta. So there's going to be people who waited for open beta for months and months, and they'll get in at the same time as like their buddy you just heard about it.
Yeah. And you know what? That's
it's
okay.
part of it. That's been my beta experience
for
for every other game except this one.
Exactly. This is a super classic beta experience. And I mean, Kaplan came out himself and said they probably should have called it an alpha originally, and that would have maybe managed expectations better. So I think it's fine.
Cool. Well, I think we hit that. So let's get to the big news. Overwatch Funko Pops. We're getting them. They're going to be amazing. It's Tracer, Reaper, Widowmaker, and Winston, right? Am I missing one? Or is it, there's 4, right?
Correct.
And
yeah, you do need to point out the Winston is the 6-inch supersized
mega
pop figure. So he's a big ape.
Yeah, I am an addict for these stupid little knickknacks to put on my shelf and hang on my wall. So I am going to buy multiples probably of these. And thank you, Blizzard.
I'll be buying them.
Once they come out with all the stuff for Jinx that they're supposed to come out for Overwatch that we haven't seen from, I probably have $200 sitting in my bank account just ready to continue to impulse buy, go on my impulse buy streak, extend it. So.
You're not going to buy that Reaper statue?
No, I wish. Maybe. I don't know.
I want non-Funko things because I'm not a Funko guy, but I would take plushies. I could do more plushies. I could do canvases, more clothing, all these things, but I just not a Funko Pop guy. I don't know which characters came out as Funko Pops because I don't care.
So I don't get that. Like, okay, I have no allegiance to Funko Pop. If it's a bobblehead, if it's a figurine, if it's a statue, if it's a plushie, stuffed animal, something that hangs on my wall, whatever. They're all like knickknacks. They're all the same to me. I guess I don't have an affinity against or for Funko, if that makes sense. But I don't know. All right, just nod at me on an audio podcast. That's great.
We're going to just keep nodding at you. Yeah.
Dear podcast listeners, Kevin and I are actually nodding at John currently.
If I ever go like, or something like that, it's because Kevin and Jimmy are nodding at me, and I'm hoping that they will break the silence. They just,
embrace the silence.
Okay, so we got the Overwatch Funko Pops. Did Jeff Kaplan, he did put out a developer update as well for open beta. Was there anything in there extra that we didn't really cover?
I mean, the only thing that stood out to me that I thought was cool is that the pre-order early access is for you and a friend, because that's something we didn't really know until the official announcement came out. And I do think that that's a nice touch, that if you're committing to spend the money and pre-order the game, including on consoles, you'll be able to bring a friend into the beta experience with you, which I think is a very smart business decision from them, just to get as many people in as possible. And everybody will be trying to, corral their friends to play these games with them. That's how game communities are formed, right? If I'm going to go out and buy the newest Call of Duty, I call up all my buddies and say, hey, who's buying, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 18 and which platform are we getting it on? And we all agree and we go buy it. So, I mean, Overwatch is going to have that exact same experience, and having the really cool pre-order benefit for a friend, it's just an easy way to cement that effect.
Yeah.
Thanks for nodding at me there, John. That was good.
I at least said something, Jimmy. Sorry, I finished drinking my water, and so I was trying to
I agree, Kevin.
All right. Good talk. So, for anybody who missed it, recap. Too long, didn't listen. Overwatch is out May 24th. We're getting an open beta in early May. Get a pre-order in by the end of April. You get early access. And there's some plastic toys you can go buy. Wrap it.
Beautiful. All right. So let's go on here really quick. There was a patch that we saw about a week and a half ago. So, sorry. We're going to run through it really quick in case you've been living under a rock or this is the only way to kind of interact with Overwatch. Either way, really quick, they're working. So Jeff Kaplan kind of went on a blue post spree over at battle.net, answering some questions and things like that. Here's a quick rundown of some things we learned. Number one, they're looking at some line of sight issues on Hollywood, as well as the pointless staircase in Lijiang Tower. Finally, staircase is stupid. They're looking
I don't even remember where that is. Like,
it's right on the spawn point, right as you're walking past the shift, there's like a staircase and you naturally want to go down it, but it's the way slower way to get to the thing. But the way it's designed, it just kind of leads you right into it, even though that's not the right way to go. Well, it's the right way. It just gets you there slower. They also they're working on Numbani. Oh my gosh, Numbani, to make it look and feel more like lived in. It's an evacuated city, and right now it's just kind of pristinely clean and empty, and so they want to make it a little bit more lived in. There will be a soundtrack for Overwatch in the Collector's Edition. They lowered the timeout cooldown for spamming emotes. We've got UI fixes, so Torbjorn's legendary skins were breaking the user rank UI icon. That's fixed. Other graphical changes, like the scroll bar has decent contrast, and there will be statistics by grouping, so that's not bad. Spectator mode, we should be seeing live in March this month or April. And they're open to community sprays, but it is likely far, far off. And the most important thing I wanted to talk about everything he said is a lot of people have complained that it's way easier to defend than it is attack in Overwatch for multiple maps. And we were given some statistics that kind of agree and kind of disagree. And what they found is attackers win less at lower skill levels, 38 to 40%, and more at higher skill levels, 50 to 60%. What do you guys think about that? That's almost a 12% gap between low level and high level players. Why do you think that is?
One, this means they have some sort of internal MMR tool to see where people's skill level lies. So that's interesting to kind of see. And I'd be curious how they're determining that, which falls into the lower skill levels here. It makes more sense just because I feel like you need to be a lot more coordinated on attack. So I think people at higher skill levels have clearly a bit more experience in the game and understand how heroes complement each other and when to go in on points and stuff like that. So it doesn't surprise me, and I'm not sure really how to fix this. I mean, you can play around with numbers if there are problematic heroes or not, and yeah, it's just a very interesting stat. What do you think, Kevin?
I mean, I think it's pretty self-evident. Like, the matchmaking system has always had a component that's trying to evaluate for player skill. They're using some kind of modified ELO system. There's no question that there's already balance occurring when teams are being constructed. It's not always good balance, but they're trying. So, I mean, I think there's definitely notionally the ability for them to separate out when a game is high skill versus low skill. And at that point, once the lobby is formulated and they're looking at the general statistics, people who are new to the game, new to the genre, new to the concepts are going to probably filter in slowly. They're going to run in as soon as they resurrect and not coordinate as a team. They're not going to do a really good job of making counter pick selections. You'll often get teams where there's no support player, whereas at the high levels, like typical comps right now are running, multiple tanks and multiple supports is totally standard. It's often out of 6 players, you often only have 2 real damage dealing characters. So I think there's definitely something to be said for like you said, Jimmy, the coordination level. And the more coordinated a team, the better they're going to do at synchronizing ults, synchronizing damage, being able to abuse line of sight and all the cool combinations that can exist when you really think critically about building a team and counterpicking against your opponent's selections. By virtue in theory, right? The attacking team should have that advantage. They should be the team who's in the position to say, okay, we tried to break through their defenses, we were held off. Now we get an opportunity to switch characters, to reevaluate our strategy. And the defenders don't. The defenders are out on the map with whatever characters they picked. So they've been counterpicked. They're going to be punished for their selections. And it's not realistic, I don't think, to like run back to your base and switch every time you kill somebody off the other team. Like that's just not strategically viable.
No, this
so
is something
it's a design feature, right?
That's what I do.
Yeah, this is something I actually kind of am a little bit worried about for these point defense maps like this. That first point, if you die pretty early on in a fight there, the walk back is so long for defense. It just feels like you're super, super punished for that. And I don't know if there's an easy fix for that, because obviously you don't want the spawn point being too close, where it's just like you're able to stonewall them. And maybe that's completely by design by Blizzard here, where they want that first point to pretty much almost always be won by the attacking team, so that the game gets extended on a little bit longer.
I mean, fundamentally, honestly, the game should, on a strict technicality, slightly favor the offense team, right? The attackers should have a slight advantage, because if it's totally even, the defenders just never lose, right? They hold off and they just keep things. Like if it's perfectly 50-50, defenders just never lose. Defenders should be forced to give up ground. Attackers should be given the opportunity to counterpick and punish the selections the defenders have made. Otherwise, you'd never advance through the map. You'd never get anywhere. It's not like a typical non-objective based shooter where you just got to find a way to kill a guy and get some points and get a kill streak, right? Like that's not how Overwatch plays. So the game has to be designed such that offense can be successful and that defense is basically trying to stall them, right? How long can you as the defending team delay the attackers? You're not preventing them from leaving their spawn point. You're not fighting at one point on the map the whole game. You're constantly retreating a little bit at a time and taking up new positions. That's intentional. So, I mean, at a high skill level, it doesn't surprise me at all that the attacking teams are successful because the game is already slanted in their favor. I don't know that there's a good way to solve that. I know Blizzard's tried a lot of things to make it so that defense is not as punishing at low levels with all the changes they made to characters like Bastion and Torbjorn over the sequence of patches we've seen. I don't know that there's any way to make defending less punishing against low-level attacking teams. And I don't know that there's any way to make defending more successful against high-level attacking teams. Like, you will fundamentally screw up the way the game is played wildly in favor of either side if you make any really substantive changes. On that subject, though, we did see in the last round of patches some clever changes, like stuff that actually does kind of help in that it just introduces more counterplay, right? Things like the Genji and Lucio health nerfs. Both characters play exactly the same. They still have all the exact same tools. They work exactly the same way as they did for anybody who had been playing them before. They just die slightly easier. It opens up the ability to snipe them. It opens up new counterplay choices where you say, okay, if I see a Genji, he's going to reflect all these things. There's videos going around today showing Genji reflecting people's ultimates, which is kind of unbelievable that that's even allowed.
It's still
batting
silly.
away like the Hanzo dragon. Like, yeah, it's crazy. But making them just have lower health says, okay, you still have all your tools. You still play exactly the same way you did before. We didn't take anything away from you as a player. We just made you easier to kill. And that makes you have to maybe more critically evaluate what you can and can't do and what's going to kill you when you get out on the map. So, I mean, I think they're doing what they can in that sense.
I think something to just to kind of piggyback off what you said, I think that's one of the beautiful things about the new control game type is you don't have an offensive defensive advantage. There are small variations because it's not a perfectly symmetrical map. So there are certain teams on certain spawn sides that may have certain perceived tactical advantages, higher elevations or viewpoints and things like that. But ultimately, every team has a 50-50 chance to, win that map. And it's all about who is the best at their heroes and who has the best comp. And so I wonder if going down the road, we're going to see a lot less offense-defense and a lot more offense-offense type things where you're trying to contest something or control something rather than escort and attack and defend and things like that.
It does make me hopeful that eventually there will be game types introduced to the game where there's multiple points of contention at the same time, right? This is a big part of how, I mean, I always think it's funny, right? How Blizzard has different teams working on different games and they do something super clever in one game or one genre that just doesn't seem to, like that institutional memory doesn't seem to go across the street to the next building for the next team. They're doing so much in Heroes of the Storm to try to break up the like common style of gameplay in MOBAs by saying, okay, we're going to change up the maps, we're going to pull the team apart and make them contest multiple objectives at the same time. We're going to force them to think about how to take multiple engagements on different points on the map, as opposed to just grouping up and taking that one critical team fight. And Overwatch, I think, will actually benefit from that. Like, I know the game fundamentally has to have the big 6-on-6 effect to it, but I think you could definitely have a game type where you have to get control of 2 nodes before you can move and, you know, capture the objective to win the game or something. And it would force you to think a little bit differently about how the game plays, because now you're worried about these little 3-on-3 skirmishes, which still technically happen in the game, but you actually force the issue a little bit. And there's definitely, I think, room to iterate and maybe like mix the game up a little bit that way. Because you're right, John. Like, control is the most, it's the
Fair.
most different thing we have in the game right now, because it's got that slightly different style to it. And you're right, it creates a different set of balance considerations. And I really like it for that.
Well, thank you, Kev. Thank you for agreeing with me.
Agreeing with you?
I know. I don't even know what to, I haven't had to say those words before.
Like once a week, you say something that I agree with. And that was it. You got one. You're done.
This is my one for March.
No,
well,
I said the week.
We
not
might
the
as
month.
well stop the show here then. Done.
Right.
Episode's done,
Show's
guys.
done. Actually, this is, you should know this. This is our most offensive episode ever.
It
And
is.
so we should quit buddying up and start
So
getting
bad.
offensive here. We're going to talk about some offensive heroes in Overwatch. We've been trying to do this for like 3 weeks. We had the first tweet, 3 weeks ago, and we're finally getting to it this week with everything going on. But here it is, our most offensive episode ever. Let's talk offense and Overwatch. First up, Genji. Jimmy, tell us a little bit about Genji. Besides
Genji
how much you
is-
hate him, because I hate people who play Genji. Scum
Why
of
do
the
you hate
earth.
me? Why
Scum
do you
of the
hate
earth.
me?
You don't play Genji. Come on. He's got too high of a skill cap for guys like us to be playing Genji.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so he has various abilities. Shuriken is his ability, and it has an alternate and a default fire. It's just he tosses out 3 deadly throwing stars, I think. Yeah,
Yep.
throws throughout 3 stars, and then it kind of in a straight line. In the first primary fire, and the alternate fire is kind of a wide horizontal spread of it. Deflect, Kevin had just mentioned that basically you push a button and you deflect anything heading towards your face, and it heads back to whoever shot it to you. Swift Strike is his big melee attack. He slashes forward with his katana and does some pretty significant damage. And if I forgot about this. If he eliminates the target, he can instantly use this ability again. So he's the Li Ming of Overwatch. And Dragonblade's ultimate ability, he basically becomes a terrifying melee force. He brandishes katana for a brief period of time until he sheaths his sword. Genji can deliver killing strikes to any targets within his reach. So, you want to kind of move out of the way when he pulls that off.
So Genji, we saw, just got a little bit of a nerf. Used to have a 200 health pool and is now down to 150, thank God. So he can finally be taken out. He can be one shot by a sniper. But I still hate... Have I mentioned how much I hate Genji? I freaking
John,
hate Genji.
Do you hate Genji?
I hate Genji. He can climb walls. He can move really fast. His primary and secondary fires are really powerful. I freaking hate his ultimate. It's so annoying to play against, and he's a very well-designed hero, and I hate Blizzard for making such an enticing hero.
And to touch on lore a little bit, he's the brother of Hanzo, correct?
Hanzo's bro.
Yes, okay.
There's on the new, it's not Nepal. Is it Nepal? No, there's one of the new maps has Genji's room in it with his sword. It's like a pretty cool thing. And then on the wall, there's a tapestry with the two brothers, one with the double dragon coming out of a bow and one with the dragon coming out of the sword. So it's Genji's room. I think it's been confirmed. And yeah, so that's kind of cool too. So Genji, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you hate Genji, Kevin?
Here's the thing. Of the characters in the game, I love his lore almost the most of anybody. It's one of the coolest stories. The whole concept of becoming one with this non-humanoid body that he had rejected and learning to utilize it. The story is very cool. And I really thought that the reveal on him was really well done. I just enjoyed everything leading up to the day that he was playable in the game, and then I learned to hate him. And I learned to hate him because I just don't like the fact that he's a Jedi walking around cutting through all of the stormtroopers who are trying desperately to shoot him, and it doesn't matter. Every game I've played, I'll wheel right up and I'll be in melee range of a Genji with a character like a McCree, right? And I'll want to just take the quick 6 shots and blow him up, and he'll just turn around, push a button, and I die instead. And I know that that's fair, and I know that it's balanced, and I know that there's reasons that he has to work that way because he has to get to melee range to do much of anything in the game. But I hate it. I hate it fundamentally. And I think that the balance change they made here is actually a really good one. Knocking his health down a peg just makes it so that, there's now stuff where even if he does get up close and personal, you can do something about that because he's vulnerable to explosions and bombs and traps. He's not going to be able to just run through a Symmetra nest or something and come away unscathed, no big deal. He's totally vulnerable to Widowmaker now, which I love because that's a huge quality of life improvement for a defending team if they can see him and blow him up. But I just dislike Deflect on principle. And I think there's going to be changes to it because the fact that it deflects any projectile right now is insane. I watched a video of him batting away a Hanzo ult, and the dragon turns around and flies the other way.
The fact that it counts as an ult is just absurd.
That's not right. I could run for president on a campaign of deflect shouldn't deflect ults, and I would get elected because that's insane.
It blocks Pharah's
Make
ult
Overwatch
too.
great again.
So because he stops justice from raining from above. It's terrible.
It is
Nice.
Terrible.
Okay, so we got the most OP offensive player, the most offensive offensive player that we have in the game. Let's talk about we're all soldiers now. Soldier 76. Kevin, give us a breakdown.
Right. So Soldier 76 is the most default, most basic. If you're coming from any other shooter, this is the character you're going to want to play because he has a toolkit that says, all right, you are a guy with a gun, shoot the gun, see what you can do. He uses a heavy pulse rifle that has nice, steady fire, even though it's an automatic weapon. His alternate fire are the Helix rockets. They shoot out in a single burst and explode in a small radius. Nice way to take out somebody if you can get up and close with it, or just pick somebody off who's kind of sitting in a corner. He has the ability to sprint, one of the only characters that has a move speed modifier of his own, other than something like getting a Lucio aura. And he can throw down the biotic field, and that puts down a little thing that looks kind of like a thermos that shoots out Healy beams in a circle, and all of his teammates that are within the radius of it will get healed for a small amount. So really nice as a character that sort of has some of the best self-sustain in the game. And then he also gets the Tactical Visor Ultimate. He has the ability to basically lock on to a target, and his targeting reticle will guarantee that the hits within his line of sight when he lines up on somebody are doing damage and are hitting the target. So basically, you ult and you get super duper aim assist, which is it's pretty nice, very reliable. He's not the highest damage, he's not the highest threat, he's not the most capable of taking out multiple targets. He's just solid, stable, easy to use, easy to learn. He is the the learning to ski of Overwatch heroes. Nice and easy to do. Very simple. You could teach a child how to play Soldier 76.
Have you ever played Mario in any of the like Mario Kart, Mario parties?
Yep.
He is Mario. He can do everything, doesn't do anything the best, but viable, has a pretty impressive toolkit. The self-heal, I will say, or not the self-heal, the area effect heal is actually heals for quite a bit. I think it's almost 3/4 of his whole health.
Yeah, it's super nice.
That biotic field.
And your allies can get healed by it too.
Yep, and so that's really nice to have. And that tactical visor, like imagine if Mercy, her staff, did damage directly to the most vulnerable parts of the body that's not the head. So you're not getting headshots for every bullet that you hit, but you're getting high impact body shots. And you only had to be that close as like Mercy does with her staff before she just kind of lashes on. That's what it is. It's like if Mercy was an offensive player and her staff was on crack.
Nod.
Yeah, I saw
nod in my head.
Now I have to go add that. Wow.
I love 76.
At 52 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Awkward fucking silence.
But I enjoy 76 for the most part. He's a really fun character to play and kind of rounds out your composition. He's just, like we were saying, the very basic FPS dude.
Right.
I do wish that he had, like, he's got sprint, which is really great in terms of mobility. I just wish he had something that gave him the tiniest bit of verticality, because Overwatch, there's so much verticality in the game. It feels like the characters who don't have any way of manipulating where they are in terms of getting up and down surfaces or getting to vantage points are at a huge disadvantage. And obviously he's got, good long distance accuracy. The damage drop off isn't terrible. So he can obviously still just shoot at people from the ground. But I do feel like it would be good if, down the road, like a character like 76 or 76 himself maybe could jump a little higher or something, because it just feels like right now that's a huge limitation, and it's not a limitation that would make him more powerful if he didn't have it. Like if he had the ability to jump 50% higher than he does now, that wouldn't break the game in any way.
Yeah, I mean, him, Tracer, and McCree are all very vertical players. They have one axis. They've got an x-axis, no y-axis, basically. And so I definitely feel that. But I don't know, at the same time, like, location and where you're able to put your hero is such a huge part in the game. Like, imagine if a lot of these heroes who aren't vertically inclined, all of a sudden can kind of be wherever you want or wherever they want. Even Junkrat, to a point, he can move around and be vertical by, blowing up his mine under him. But there are so many very dangerous, like Soldier 76 is very dangerous if he can just get up on top of a building and throw up his tactical visor. I mean, basically at that point, it's justice reigns from above. And
on steroids.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get it. But I don't like playing these I don't like playing characters that just stay on the ground, but I really like playing Soldier 76. And so I'm conflicted inside when I have to play him, because you always have to just be like sitting behind the payload or kind of sitting or, in a place on the ground where any sniper or something can easily, kind of show up and, wreak havoc. So
I just think it's a very mobility-driven game. I think that if you look at the characters that have success at the highest levels of play, I think if you watch the streams of people who are playing at high levels or potentially trying to compete in like some of the amateur tournaments that are being run, you see a lot of high mobility characters. You see characters that have the ability to get around, manipulate positioning, and that's kind of a knock against the Soldier 76s, the McCrees, because being able to do like okay damage at long range, or like medium range, I guess is maybe a better way to describe it, isn't necessarily a good enough trade-off against mobility in this type of game. Because mobility and positioning and zoning are so much more important since everything is objective-based. It's not like sitting back and picking off one character at long range. It's like, oh, well, I can just unlock my kill streaks. Like, no, you need to be able to help contest positioning. And when you can't get to that positioning efficiently, that's a huge liability. So I feel like even though he's definitely probably one of the most balanced characters, he's also one of the characters that once you're comfortable with the game, you're actually going to see the least of.
Yep, I completely agree. He's Mario.
He is Mario.
Literally
He's
Mario.
totally Mario.
Let's talk about this
All right,
next
Mario
hero.
76.
Mario 76. I like that one. Next up, McCree. So before we even get into McCree's abilities, my favorite part about McCree is his belt buckle. It is the best thing, and because this is a
Sam
clean
Jackson
show,
belt buckle.
yeah, because this is a clean show, it's bad apple mother father, and absolutely brilliant. Jimmy, tell us about McCree.
Yeah, so McCree is obviously an offensive hero, very offensive because of his belt. So he has the Peacekeeper. This is his gun, his 6-shooter, and you can fire off one shot, or you can right-click and fire all 6 very quickly. And that actually leads up into his other ability, Combat Roll, which lets him roll in the direction he is currently moving, and that actually reloads the gun at the same time. So using those efficiently together is what makes him good. The flashbang is his grenade that blinds enemies and actually explodes in a little bit of a small radius. And then his ultimate, it's called Deadeye, but it's really called High Noon. So
High Noon. Oh, do we just lose Jimmy
I think
there
we
for a
lost
second?
Jimmy.
anyone in a range.
Jimmy,
what?
we just lost you.
I'm back. Okay,
You said something
I'm back.
about high noon, and I think you had to respawn because that's basically what happens.
Exactly.
Once you hear it's high noon, you're like, crap, corner, crap, dead.
Yeah, so it's a great ultimate. It does require quite a bit of setup, though, because it kind of is a targeting circle that kind of focuses down onto the heroes, and then once it's in that circle, you can fire off the ultimate and it'll kill anyone that's still kind of in sight of that. And but it's super obvious when it goes off because everyone hears that it's high noon.
Yeah.
And everyone knows to run for the hills.
The funniest thing, though, is when it's high noon and you're behind him and you just see him kind of like walking really slowly. And you're just like, he needs to be in this position to do the high noon thing. And
yeah,
I've ruined some high noon, some of McCree's days by messing up that high noon. I really want to be on that other team chat.
I just noticed something that I didn't really realize about Deadeye. It looks like, according to the description, the weaker his targets are, the faster he'll line up a kill shot. So
yeah.
that's very interesting. Obviously, I've not played very much McCree.
He's
Clearly.
hard. He's
He is a
hard.
very
He's got a
difficult
very
hero.
small reticle. And so it's kind of like, and they kind of changed his range. For a while, it's kind of remind me of the pistol on Halo, where everyone used the pistol and you could just, hit anyone from all across the map. Maybe every once in a while you grab a rocket launcher or something or a sniper. But ultimately, everyone just used the pistol and tried to kill each other in 3 or 4 shots. And that's basically what McCree was. They nerfed that a little bit, but the people who are still really good at those precision shots really excel with McCree. And then basically his ult fire on the Peacekeeper is basically like a shotgun, kind of. It's really quick. 6 shots. Really, I am totally grabbing that. 6 shots really quickly, and basically, except for like tanks, it'll basically one-shot anyone if you get too close. And with his flashbang, basically like a tracer or whatever, is one shot by that ult fire. Because that'll stun her in place, and then you're done. So McCree, but he hasn't been seen nearly as much play lately since the last round of nerfs that kind of took him out. He doesn't seem to be nearly as powerful as he once was.
It's 100% the Soldier 76 effect, right? Like, he doesn't have the mobility. He's got to get to that sort of medium range. With the damage drop-off calculated the way it is now, he just can't sit back and do, like, even those good precision shots, unless you're hitting a stationary target, which in Overwatch is basically never, you don't get a lot of value out of that, and you can't just sit back and take pot shots. You have to move towards the objective. The one thing I would love to see that I think would make McCree, like, my first choice, honestly, in terms of, like, that medium-range offense character, would be if that it's a family-friendly show, that forking flashbang needs to fly a little further. The range on that sucks.
Yep.
And the fact that you throw it out thinking that, like, oh yeah, it's going to lob and it's going to hit those targets up ahead of me. Like, if you're running and you throw it, it hits you. Like, it doesn't travel at all.
Yeah.
The rate of, not rate of fire, but like rate of travel on it is awful, and its range is awful, and its radius is awful. And obviously if it was a whole lot bigger or flew a whole lot further, it would be way too powerful. But like, coming from any other FPS, coming from even within Overwatch playing other characters and looking at how far a projectile travels, throwing that thing and having it blow up when it's like, whatever, 10 yards away from you just feels super awkward. Like, at that range, you may as well just be shooting.
It feels like it has double gravity. You throw it out and all of a sudden double gravity is on. You're like, oh, okay.
What they need to do is make the flashbang an actual, like, lasso or something where it'll, like, will actually come back to you. Even that would be better to rather than it just go out and then poof, done. It basically goes out and comes back, and if it hits anything in the path, then it
they just need to talk to you. You already have the sound effect set up for that.
I would be totally happy if the travel distance on it was up to even like 25-30%. Like, just so that if I throw it as I'm moving towards a target, it gets to the target before I do, and it can go far enough that I can use it on a target that I'm not already in melee range of. Like, 9 times out of 10, if I'm throwing it, it's because I figure I can get one extra bullet into the guy by throwing it and taking 2 shots instead of just taking 1. And as often as not, it's just not worth it. Like, it often to me feels like pressing that button is not worthwhile. And I'm not a high skill player, so this is just like my sort of like, what is the feedback? What does it feel like? And what it feels like is it's a huge waste of a skill slot.
Sure. Sorry, I had to read chat.
Nod.
Flasherang from Crow. Flasherang. It'd be a boomerang.
That's a better ability.
If he was Australian, then he could do that. Tracer, let's talk about Tracer. So, Tracer, obviously one of 3 or 4 heroes who are really at the forefront of the story. We were first introduced to Tracer in the first cinematic reveal, I believe. I don't think we saw her any sooner than that. But since then, we've all fell in love. Gosh, this is a struggle, boys.
We have fallen in love.
We have all
with Tracer.
fallen in love with her person. Anyways, so for Tracer, she's got pulse pistols that have really crappy ammo sizes, but can do quite a bit of damage close up. Basically, she just rapid fires both of them, then can reload them fairly quickly. She's got a blink. The blink has 3 charges. They charge back pretty quickly, but you can blink in whatever direction you are going. So you can blink forward, backward, and side to side. You also have recall. So her E is recall, which will basically rewind her, I believe, 3 seconds, and it'll return her to whatever state she was in. So if you get hit by something really bad and you're about to die, as long as you were alive, or not alive, but flourishing in your health pool 3 seconds ago, you can go right back. So in a way, it's like having almost 300 health sometimes, because she has a health pool of 150. And her ultimate is Pulse Bomb. It's a large bomb that adheres to any surface or unfortunate opponent it lands on. After a brief delay, the bomb explodes, dealing high damage to all enemies within its blast radius. I love Tracer conceptually, everything about her, even though she's very horizontal, but her movement she's so pesky with that movement. She can move around so quickly and get to important places faster than anybody else. But what I honestly hate about Tracer, there's one thing. I think her ultimate is stupid and has nothing to do with her as like a player. Like, I don't know what it is. It just doesn't fit for me. Just, oh, cool. You're fast and agile and quick and have this thing that makes you stick in time and space and not float out into the middle of nowhere of time and space. And then she pulls out this pulse bomb as her ultimate. I mean, come on. But besides that, she's perfectly designed and awesome, and I can't wait for her in Heroes of the Storm, and I'm sure you guys can't either. And it's really great for taking out tanks. Yep.
Yeah, I really like her. Like you said, conceptually, you're much better playing Tracer than I am.
Damn straight.
I haven't put in the time really, but because I feel like every time I play her, I'm still on this learning curve with how to really best use her abilities. So I feel like I'm really not benefiting the team by playing on Tracer. So I usually just switch to something else that I'm a bit more comfortable with. So, but yeah, like you said, her personality is like really just shines throughout everything they've done with this game. And I think, and that's kind of the scary thing, is I think a lot of people are going to gravitate to playing her when they first get this game, and they're going to have a rude wake up call because she is super fragile and
she's not easy
has
to
a
play.
huge, I feel like she has one of the higher skill caps in the game as a hero.
She's she's super fragile. She's totally a glass cannon. And the way I've seen her played best is you literally like run in, pap, 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 kind of circle around and then kind of run away, and then come back, pap, 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 and you just kind of, pepper your opponents before you, kind of duck around the corners and get out of the way. And if they get any damage on you, then you recall back to the state you were. And it's just a very like disorienting thing that she does, that when there are players who are comfortable in that play style, like really excel with her. But if you're not like that and you want to basically, because otherwise if she doesn't have her blinks, you have to play her almost like a Reaper, where you try to get close and then you start shooting and then hope that you can kill them before they kill you type of thing.
I think the problem I have with her is I get in on the back line or something, and I start attacking on their heroes, and I just get tunnel vision. I'm like, oh, they're low. I can get this kill. And it ends up getting me killed because I'm too far out for recall to really be effective to get me to a safe spot. Because I've gone a little too deep into their back line. And yeah,
there have been too many times where I've like waited like 3.5 seconds rather than 3, and so I come back with like 20 health, and I was like, crap, this is the worst. Kevin, tell us about Tracer.
I mean, she's the most iconic character in the game, so you have to like her for that, if nothing else. And she's also probably the most obvious counter to a ton of stuff, right? The ability to get around behind a backline, get to an objective. Like I just finished bagging on literally every other character we've talked about for lack of mobility. Tracer goes fast. Tracer is the Ricky Bobby of this game. She just likes to go fast. I love playing her. I love her toolkit. And everything I think I could gripe about, like her damage being low or whatever, I just look at it and go, no, like she's super balanced and I totally dig her. So I think you're right a little bit, John, about the flavor thing. Like she is kind of, it's weird that she has a bomb as an ult, but I don't know that there's a better solution, and it really needs to be a damage dealing ability, and it needs to be something that works on multiple heroes, because I mean, every single offense character has a damage dealing ult that hits multiple characters. Like they're all that way. So I mean, I don't know what else you could do in that slot. I think it's just kind of a good fit in terms of the toolkit, because it gives her something that synergizes really well with recall. But yeah, the skill cap on her is probably one of the higher ones in the game, and I have nothing bad to say about the character. Totally. I always just love listening to her talk. Like, I just love the character conceptually.
Kevin's got a thing for British accents. He really does. It's adorable.
Especially if they look like that.
Rightfully so.
Well, let's move on. Reaper coming up next. Jimmy, tell us about Reaper.
Reaper is similar to Tracer in the fact that he has dual guns, but they're dual shotguns, so they're obviously very short range. And that's all he has as far as is damage. That's going to be what you're doing your damage with. He has a Wraith form where he becomes a shadow for a short period of time. And in this form, he takes no damage, is able to pass through enemies, but cannot fire weapons or use abilities. And I believe he gets a slight speed boost as well in this form. So it's actually a good way of traveling across the map. And Shadow Step is basically probably one of the more unique movement abilities in the game. You get to basically move anywhere on the map that you can have sight range for and teleport there after a short cooldown. And then his ultimate, the Death Blossom, which is basically a circle of doom. If you basically try to jump in close to a clump of enemy heroes as Reaper, set this off and watch the kill count rise for you. Reaper has been really fun the times that I have played him, but he does suffer from kind of really needing to be in the thick of things, and he is a bit fragile, but that Wraith form really allows him to get out of hairy situations that he probably shouldn't be able to get out of. And
or get into.
Or get into. And he's really fun.
Something with Reaper for me is he's not very good on payload maps. It feels like you can't really defend well because you have to be up in your opponent's face, and you can't really attack well because people are kind of setting up and trying to defend something. But in like control maps, he actually does really well because you get so many people in those small areas for the control and point capture stuff. I really like his tool set. I probably have played the least of the offensive characters. I probably played the least of Reaper just because he is so iconic. I don't know why. I think I just skipped over him. Like, oh, everyone's playing Reaper. I don't want to play him. And then I just never got around to playing him again.
You know, I think he honestly was probably one of my favorite characters before the extra characters started coming out. Before we started to get some of the additions to the game, right? He felt super duper powerful and super significant. Did you guys play, Jimmy, maybe did you play the like original test version of the game when it was first announced at BlizzCon back in 2014?
Yeah, I do remember playing that, and Torbjorn was a giant pain in the ass.
He was, but if you go back to that version of the game, right, Reaper was gross. Reaper was unmanageable. Mm-hmm. He was... The snowball effect of getting in close with Reaper was unbelievable. His damage throughput was crazy. The drop-off was way too far. His ult was just impossible to counter. And then it was like, all of a sudden you saw the addition of like, Mei able to throw up an ice wall. Genji able to reflect the damage. Junkrat picking him off at a distance or catching him in a trap as he tries to sneak around a corner. The additions to the game have made me feel like Reaper kind of lost a little bit of his edge. He was my favorite character in the game fundamentally for a long time, and now I feel like he's a super powerful character. But you're right, he's got to get up close and personal, and that's tough, right? But he does have that teleport, and the ability to kind of disappear and get out of the way with Wraith form is probably my favorite emergency button in the whole game.
Yep, that's very good. And last but not least, Pharah. Pharah is also a hero who has gone from mediocre to overpowered to mediocre and overpowered and back and forth and back and forth. And yeah, so let's talk about her abilities here. So first, rocket launchers. Pharah's primary weapon launches rockets that deal significant damage in a wide blast radius. Her jump jet propels her suit allows you to soar high into the air. Concussive blast. She loses a wrist rocket that knocks back any enemies it strikes. And last but not least, justice does indeed rain from above with Pharah's barrage, which basically Iron Man style, like, blows all these missiles in kind of a targeted area. She stays in place, though, when she does it. So if you're up in the air, you stay in place there, which means that if there is somebody who has a good line of sight on you that you're not about to, take out with your ultimate, you're pretty easy to kill. Ultimately, though, a really cool character. The only thing I don't like is she's got pretty mediocre skins. What do you think, Kev?
I mean, I don't use a lot of the skins anyways. I actually really like the looks of the characters at a base level. Especially, honestly, I really like just the kind of original design of Pharah. But she's my go-to first choice on offense right now. I really like her. I'm big on mobility. I'm big on range. And I feel like she's just a super fun character that way. And I guess I feel like of the offense characters, she's probably the one that, for me, I find like the most ability to abuse angles and take advantage of map design, and that's a big deal in games like this to me. So I just really enjoy her, is all I can say. I think, the damage is really balanced, the mobility feels fair. When she gets up and tries to rain justice from above, she's actually very vulnerable and gets picked off a lot, which I didn't expect the first 2 times I played her. But now I'm actually super leery of when and where I use that ult because I'm scared I'm going to get blown up.
Yeah, you really have to pick and choose your places where you're going to use that. And I pretty much just agree with you. She's my favorite hero by far in the game and feels most like a Quake style hero, and that's I think what I really like about her. And for some reason they don't even mention on the abilities, but her right click lets her basically kind of stabilize her jets in the air, and that gives you the ability to just hang out in the air for a pretty long period of time. Not as much anymore because they finally fixed the being able to just kind of sit on a slanted surface and just keep refilling that because it does have fuel and it's a very limited thing. But yeah, she's, like Kevin said, my go-to on offense for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I think that about wraps us up for our most offensive episode ever. And by most offensive, I mean we find a lot of way to say swear words with alternatives like apple and mother, father. And what else do we say? I can't remember. Forking.
Bad.
Forking.
Yeah, forking. So those were our naughty words of the week. Hope you enjoyed them. But I think we need to get out of here. So let's get out of here. This was fun. We should do this more often and not miss a week and then do a show for
do another show
4 days later. And it's nice to have internet back. You guys look great. And hopefully my video came out okay.
So do you.
I think the stream went fine. So thank you guys for hanging out with us in chat. It's always fun to hang out, talk Overwatch with you guys. The light is at the end of the tunnel now. We have a light May 24th. Excited to play with you guys all in the open beta and then live. That'll be awesome. Jimmy, shoutouts for the week.
Just shoutouts to Blizzard for finally giving us a date. I'm excited that we finally have a date and I can really hype this game up to my friends and coworkers who have been asking me about it. And now I can give them a definitive date and be like, hey, there's an open beta you can try out. And I feel like the open beta is going to really, really make this game a success.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. What about you, Kev?
I mean, I'm just super excited to finally have had a chance to play the game again, get back into it. Meant what I said. I honestly think this, for me, is going to be a really awesome console experience. I already pre-ordered the game on PC, and I want all of the cool crossover things that come from all of the other Blizzard franchises, but it's definitely a sure win for me on console, and I'm going to play a lot of this on Xbox, I think. So big ups to Blizzard for really getting aggressive about putting out multi-platform stuff. And to those of you who keep tuning in and hanging out with us live every week, I know it's just a small crowd, but we love having you here. Somebody, if you're listening right now, do us a solid. We've never had an email. Never had an email to the Payload. And we're coming up on episode 15. We need an email. So somebody email the Payload at blizzpro.com. Hit us with a cool message, and we'll read it out and talk about it on air next show.
So you lied a little bit, but I kind of lied too.
I don't lie.
You lied straight through your teeth because you didn't know about it. We have gotten one email.
What?
About a question to put on the show. We really have. It was the reason why I say it is because it's from Blue in the chat. He sent it a while ago, and it ended up being a week that we missed, and then it ended up not being something to talk about it anymore. I forgot specifically what it was. So we got an email, but then we did not get to really answer it.
So we still need an email.
We still
Nothing
need
has changed.
it.
Your friends,
true.
send me one email.
I just don't want them to be hurt. Be like, oh, they don't want like my emails.
Lou, we
I love
love
your
you.
email. We do.
But we need an email.
Absolutely. As
we
for me,
want your email.
yes, we do. As for me, I will hopefully be streaming this week a little bit more. We're probably going to stream right after this. I think Jimmy and I are going to play some Overwatch, so I'm going to try to stream that and hang out and chat. So you can definitely come hang out all throughout the week when I'm doing that. I'm going to try to stream a lot more Hearthstone. But other than that, I don't really think there's really much else to say. No new iTunes reviews, so iTunes reviews, we love those. If you do like the show, if you give us a 5-star review, it really helps us kind of get more visibility in the ratings when people search for Overwatch podcasts, if you think we're doing a good job. And yeah, emails, thepayload@blizzpro.com. You can find more Overwatch stuff throughout the week at overwatch.blizzpro.com. JakeButtineau.ca is where awesome music came from. That's Butineau for Buttineau. Also, ScytheDesigns.com made our stream look awesome, and we all look awesome. So thanks to that guy, good friend of the show. We look great. Tweet us at Payload Podcast. Email us, thepayload@blizzpro.com. iTunes review. Find us on iTunes, Stitchers, Podcast Addicts, Google Podcasts coming soon, whatever. Guys, we got to get out of here. This has been an awesome episode number 14. We will see you in 4 days.
The Payload is a production of BlizzPro. Find out more about Overwatch at overwatch.blizzpro.com. You can find your host throughout the week on social media. Find Jimmy on Twitter at DJ Tyrant, Kevin on Twitter at Lack of Realism, and John on Twitter at Kicked Tripod.